Hi, welcome to Mercurius Being. I am Amy Jensen, and today we're doing part 2 of the Astrology of Britney Spears and the hashtag Free Britney movement. I want to say that obviously I'm not Ms. Spears' astrologer, and since I don't know her and I'm not working with her personally, and of course if I were working with her personally, I wouldn't be talking about anything in her chart. But I'd like to say that we really can't know. For me, astrology is not this gypsy crystal ball prediction thing. It's about growth and evolution. And because I am not talking to her personally, I don't know how she's experienced different transits in her life in the past. I don't know how she's experienced certain symbols in her life. And that is when you work with someone one-on-one, you learn to extrapolate, as we all do, from previous cycles to what we can expect with cycles in the future. So as I'm talking about this, it is kind of general in that way, and I'm really just focusing on what kind of was hit in her chart at certain dates and certain times, and then just kind of the confluence of the hashtag Free Britney movement, and then the whistleblower that was in April 2019. Someone who was part of a legal team who sent an anonymous message. Basically, I think that a lot of this, with her chart, it's the eclipses that have been triggered and her karmic eclipse. As I'm starting to dig into material, and those of you who know me know that I have a lot of information that comes in, and one thread leads me to another. So as I'm looking back at her, the first thing that triggered Judy Garland in her wasn't her chart necessarily, it was the documentary, and I think I mentioned that in the first part, with her big voice. And so then I kind of looked into Judy Garland's chart, and then I'm thinking about how Britney is kind of tied in with the US Pluto return, which we are already active in 2019, 2020-ish to 2024 to 2025. So Pluto has made it all the way around the sun back to its natal position for the United States and what that means. And so it just feels like I just keep digging more and more things up. And, how do you put it all into words? So I'm gonna just give it a try, all right? So we're gonna start at the start. So that was a lot of information already. So interestingly, Britney's karmic eclipse is at 7 degrees Leo. Judy Garland's karmic eclipse is at 7 degrees Aries. So there's a trine between the two. And then Judy is a Gemini with a bunch of Cancer, and of course Britney is a Sagittarius, but her North Node is in Cancer. So I saw some tie-ins between the two, and I was just kind of thinking too, Judy being at, and certainly not the beginning of the movie industry, but really being keyed into as far as The Wizard of Oz and Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and I was thinking of the bluebird, which led me to the Nightingale spirit animal. So, okay, so you can see how my mind is working. I will put the link to the Pepe Sylvia clip from It's Always Sunny at the end of this video, because that's kind of the way it is with this material. So I think this is where I'd like to start in with the link to the voice of Britney, which, as you know, is what we are collectively encouraging for her, is just to be able to speak whatever she wants, right? And I just hope that for everyone, obviously the freedom, and she's being highlighted. And I guess I was thinking about that as far as being tied in with the US chart. Obviously, she's super famous, not only in our country, but all over the world. So she's really part of the collective in that way. As I said in the previous video, how she was treated by the press and by the media and by people consuming that information negatively, I'm talking. So we, as a collective, we shared that shame of shaming, of putting that on her, which is that terrible flip side of such fame, when obviously she has so many people who love and adore her and are cheering for her, and that is this lovely swell of information and support that she's receiving now. So I guess I feel like my job here is simply, I'm just gonna shine a little of my information, light on that information, and again, just really being here to encourage her fans and the movement to keep going. And a lot of this is tied into the energies of this year, but this is going to be an ongoing thing. With her and with anyone in the industries, how much movement, then I can hear myself, I was going to say how much movement can there be, but then everything is possible, right? So I guess this is just a little tally mark in the column of Go Britney, keep pushing her fans, keep helping her, keep supporting her, and keep bringing all the information into the light. And I probably will touch into the US, so you can see, I mean, this is really, there is a lot that she's hooked into. So I'm gonna start with her voice, and I'm gonna start with Nightingale, Spirit Animal, which is beautiful. And this is from Kim Krans, and I will cite her in the materials. So Nightingale is fearless voice, speech, communication, or song. The song of the nightingale is otherworldly. This simple brown bird, almost unnoticeable among the flashy plumage of other birds, transports its listener to the realm of poetry. Nightingale energy is with us when we write, compose, and especially when we sing. It reminds us that music heals the deepest wounds. This card indicates a need to open the bridge between the heart and the voice. Is there something you need to say? How long has it been since you sang? Turn it up, write it down, and let it out. All right. So with Britney's voice, and I don't know if I said this in the last video, I've recorded a couple videos and between the edits, I can't remember what went into what, but I would love to see, so if this is redundant, I'm sorry, but not only would I love to see, obviously her speaking out, but I would love to see if she would ever record with her original voice. And I think tying into her original voice before it was changed and coached in 1997 and 98. Before her first release, it was coached to change into more of a pop voice. So I guess I would love to see for her energetically, if she got back to her original voice, what that could shift for her. So that's my Nightingale information. The Sabian symbol for her ascendant is 3 degrees Libra. This is from Linda Hill's book, The Sabian Oracle. And the Sabian symbol for the ascendant, I like to think of, if you're going to write a book of your life, this could be a possible title. So the dawn of a new day reveals everything changed. The dawn of a new day reveals everything changed, pictures new beginnings that can be sudden and unexpected. It's like a new awakening. Something new is taking shape and form and emerging into a new day, and this reveals everything changed. What was happening or evident just recently, even just the day before, has changed through an event or some shift of the mind or heart. Things are changed. Things are new. They are somehow different. This new day may not have dawned yet, but it is definitely on its way. It's hard to believe at first, but eventually it will dawn on you that many facets of your situation are different in the light of this new day. Life may have been difficult or things unsure, and you may feel like you've been through a long night or a period of darkness. Perhaps someone has been too comfortable in their habits or in their complacency and has let things just go on and on. There may need to be major changes in attitude with a new situation or information before you, or sometimes these changes are hard to adjust to, especially if what's happening hasn't been your idea or your desired outcome. Take heart. Realize that the darkness is abating and gradually letting go of what went before. Realize that it's come time to let go of the old conditions and move on. This is an opportunity to seize the day, to see that there is light all around you. A change of scene can affect how you feel and how things appear. How does or how will this new day affect you? Only you can know. However, getting up and seeing the dawn can bring spiritual messages about the directions you are moving toward. It can infuse you with hope and energy for the future. All right, so I thought that was lovely, and I did not share that in the first video. So that's all about light, right? Dawn, which comes after the dark. And as we know, Britney has been on a very Plutonian journey in Hades, and I think I touched upon the fact that she has a lot of Persephone energy in her chart. Her Pluto is square her north node and square the south node. So that energy of the god of the underworld vexed her in the last lifetime. Nightmarish conditions, very much, I am guessing, not unlike what she experienced in this lifetime. So it's all about her being able to flip that power dynamic and embrace and embody that intense, transformative energy of Pluto. So it is the long night of the soul, and in her case, the long, many, many, many years of the soul, and embracing that power, getting that power back, and being that powerful person. So that said, I think I'd like to just start with the Saturn-Uranus square. And the one that just occurred June 14th was Uranus in her 8th house at 13 degrees, Taurus, Saturn in her 5th house of 13 degrees, Aquarius forming a T-square with the moon, this is transiting moon, in her 11th house, and I'll show you here. So, and again, I'm going to try not to be too, get into the particulars of astrology, okay? I'm going to just try to be a little general so you just get the vibe, because you don't need to know all of that if you're not an astrologer and you're not super interested in knowing every little bit. But you can see here, so the inner chart is her chart, so that's her natal moon that I'm pointing at. And so Saturn, transiting Saturn up in the heavens currently for everybody right on her natal moon. Transiting moon opposite her natal moon and Saturn. Uranus up here in her 8th house, close to, it's a little wide orb, 6 degrees with their Chiron in the 8th, but definitely activating that. Chiron in the 8th in Taurus, natally. I'm just going to read a couple things from Adam Gainsburg's Chiron book. The sacred medicine of Chiron in the 8th house is to know our heart in our transformations and depths. That's the sacred medicine. This medicine is the wisdom of true power or alignment with life force. The alchemical merging of Chiron with Scorpio, that's the natural ruler of the 8th, produces, and Scorpio is also ruled by Pluto, so even in her healing energy, there is a very Plutonian aspect of it, okay? So going into the dark was part of her healing intention to really embody and experience that. I know that sounds terrible. Not so, please take it as her taking this experience and healing and becoming even more dynamically engaged with life. Does that make sense? So the alchemical merging of Chiron with Scorpio produces a rare ability to not only willfully enter and remain conscious during processes of personal transformation, but also to actually rely on the open heart as the guide in the experience. With this signature, we intend to evolve our capacity to consciously participate in the transformational nature of life rather than fearfully resisting it. We find courage during times of great stress and change, and focus during periods of much confusion. All right. With it, we can embrace greater humility and become models of heart-based, balanced power for others. And then Chiron in Taurus, that's the sign her Chiron is in. And let's see. I'll skip to the sacred medicine. It's all good in this book, so I have to kind of edit here. So the sacred medicine is to know our heart through our physicality. So again, really embodying. The intended medicine here is that of true self-stability, personally reliable values and comfort with physicality and physical experiences of all kinds. These will naturally emanate from a deep owning of our inherent personal beauty, intelligence, and resourcefulness, rather than from an intractable adherence to set familiar patterns. Taurian medicine produces the wisdom that we have most of what we need inside of us, that we do not need to acquire everything from others, and that those things we do not require from external sources can be received with ease and gratitude, rather than fear and manipulation. As we step deeper into embodying this self-image, we find richer and richer opportunities to receive the beauty of life, enjoy the physical experience, and materialize our knowing of ourselves as fundamentally supportable and sustaining. All right, so that's, these are the goals, right? Her goal incarnating with this position is to embody that energy. And again, of being her beautiful self, fully in her own body, in control of her own body completely, and being able to be a seer into the dark. I wanted to say seer into the darker for others. So, she's in it. She's been in it. She's been in the cave. She's been in the underworld. Now, hopefully, she can emerge and take her place out of the underworld And I get this image, just blossom, that Taurus energy of the green and the pink and the being just a part of life, being in the flow of life. Okay, so just showed you the June Saturn square Uranus. So these Saturn square Uranuses are hitting, obviously they're hitting everyone, but because I made some mention of this to someone and they're like, well, that's a pretty wide swath if it's just the 4 fixed signs. But if those these Saturn square Uranuses are hitting your chart, and I believe the first one in February was like 8 degrees. If they're hitting something in your chart, again, you don't have to be an astrologer. You can feel it. Something's getting tossed up. You can't deny it. It's coming, and you just go with it. You go with it, and you experience the energy. And we get better from it, right? Okay, so I see that I did this twice. In December, we'll have another Saturn square Uranus for everyone, but this is where it hits again in her chart. It's that same 5th house, moon in Aquarius. 5th house is creativity. Moon for her is in that house. That's her inner need to be creative, to have children, to play, to be in the limelight. Aquarius is to do it her own way, to be an individual, okay? So again, it's getting highlighted. Uranus in the 8th house. So I believe I talked about, so the 5th house is love given, 11th house is love received, 2nd house is your resources, 8th house is shared resources. And interestingly, for Ms. Spears, since her resources are funding the resources of others, so it's really, she's got a lot of that fixed square or fixed axis energy in her chart. So in December, it's hitting again. So hopefully that's going to break things loose even more for her. At that time, Pluto's still on her Venus, natal Venus. The god of the underworld, Venus, transiting Venus is just past there, so it's there supporting her. As we talked in the other video, she's got a super strong Venus, out of bounds, Venus spokesperson per se. At this time of the next Saturn square Uranus, transiting Mars is just past her Mercury, and it's coming up to the mean Black Moon Lilith. The true Black Moon Lilith is conjunct the Neptune. So the Mars is there, it's going through her sign, it's giving her energy, it's giving support. So I think those are all things that are shaking up those parts of her chart. So when this hits, as it does, so it is activating strongly when it hits a planet. That's always kind of one of the bugaboos with astrology. It's when we go too general, like, oh yeah, it is a wide swath then, but it's when it's hitting a planet, it's really shaking it up. So that said, it does kind of send reverberations into the 2nd house and the 11th. It does kind of hit that whole axis, if that makes sense. All right, I'm going to stop with that. I'm going to go into the hashtag Free Britney chart and just show you how it lines up with her chart. So, and again, I didn't have a time for this chart, so I just set it for February 8th in Los Angeles, and I just kind of picked a time, but so we can't, any of the house degrees are out the window, and even the moon. Thankfully, the moon is in 15 degrees. I think I pulled 10 p.m. Pacific time. The moon being at 15 degrees Leo at that time, it for sure then the moon was in that sign at least that day, because that hashtag could have been used at 6 a.m. So the moon can move up to 15, 14 degrees a day, between 12 and 15. So at least we know the moon is in Leo. Okay, so it would be super cool if I knew the time exactly. And then lo and behold, the moon was right on her karmic eclipse when the hashtag Free Britney movement started up on February 8th in 2009. But I don't know that, but at least we do know the moon was moving through the sign of Leo, activating that. And again, activating her 11th house. I've got another chart attached to this, so I can't quite see it backwards through the paper. So we do see that the transiting moon was in the 11th, so it is in the house of love received for her. The Aquarius sun, so I'm kind of designating the hashtag Free Britney movement as an Aquarius, and it would be 20 degrees Aquarius, but again, well, if it happened, you know, anytime between whatever, January 20th and now, or February 8th, and then up until February 19th-ish, I didn't look that year in particular, so we don't know if it was hatched earlier than that. You know, it could have been hatched a month earlier and been a Capricorn. Maybe it was on top of her south node. But the record of it shows that it's an Aquarius. Where am I going with all of this? And then Pluto, at that time, transiting Pluto was conjunct her 4th house. 4th house is her home. It's her psychological well-being. It is the end of things. It is the interlinked parent. So Pluto, when she was born, is up here. It's in all these years, travel down here. This was 2009. So when Pluto's just right on the cusp, it's going to be going into that 4th house. It's activating the 10th house up here, which is her career house, and then her 4th house of her home. So the god of the underworld is moving into that area. Okay, so that was 2009. Mars, transiting Mars, was just moving into her 5th house of love given, but being in the limelight, okay, creating. So Mars was pushing into it. Anytime it's right on the edge there, it's really got a lot of energy and pushing into it. And again, just look at that Aquarius stellium. So all of those planets were highlighting her 5th house of creativity. And then Jupiter was opposing her karmic eclipse. So Jupiter a lot of times can be the god of liberation or moksha. So sometimes it brings benefits, great benefits, or a lot of something. I've also seen it in charts when people pass, of just like kind of letting them go out of their body, liberating them from their body. In this aspect, in that aspect, more of a positive one, not an accident like a Mars-Pluto in a death chart. Neither here nor there. So that is what we have going on at the birth of the Free Britney movement. And again, I don't have the exact time, so it's kind of hard to say for sure, but looking at the eclipses, well, first of all, so now you can see how crazy I get. So the Free Britney movement occurred in the Fredaria, which is the division of someone's life into periods. The Vedic has dosas, and medieval astrology has the Fredaria, which just categorizes, divides everyone's life up into different periods. When the Free Britney movement started, it was during her Jupiter-Mercury period. Then after that, she went into a Mars period from December 1st, 2013 to December 2nd, 2019, and it was during that period of time when she canceled her Las Vegas residency, announced that, and then there was an eclipse on January 4th, 2019 of 0 degrees Leo. So again, that whole Leo house, that Leo chunk, canceled that residency, and then she went missing, quote unquote, checked into a facility. And then the anonymous voicemail was on April 16th, 2019. So that all happened during her Mars period, if you can see that. And now she's entering her Sun period. So I also think, so she has Sun, Venus, Mercury, and then the Moon left up until she's 85 or 84, she gets into Saturn again. And at 84, Saturn's not as hard as it is when you're 20. Or for her, would it be your second Saturn period? Her first Saturn period in her Fredaria coincided with her appearing on Star Search, and then the subsequent Disney show and recording contract, beginning of her career. So there is Saturn confinement also as part of this energy. Does that make sense? So that was a lot. And I know we haven't even talked about Saturn, kind of focusing on Pluto. Let me see. So the whistleblower chart, let me find that. And then I have to find might have to pause. Oh, got the eclipse chart over here. All right, so the whistleblower, okay. I'm jumping back a little bit. So the day that she announced, or that she came forward to announce the next Las Vegas residency in October of 2018, it was October 18 of 2018, and of course I looked up the number 18 also, but I won't get into that. You can find that if you'd like, see if there's any connection there. When she came forward to announce it, but then just left that announcement, the moon, transiting moon was at 20 degrees Aquarius. Mars, transiting Mars, was at 14 degrees Aquarius, conjunct her natal moon in her house of creativity, in the sign of individuality and interruptions and blowing things up, Aquarius. But if you will recall, 20 degrees Aquarius is the degree that we've assigned to the hashtag Free Britney movement. So the moon lined up with the Free Britney movement at that time when she came forward to announce. Saturn by that time had entered into her fourth house. So will not go into the whole Saturn rotation, but it's already been around her chart once, and then it's moved past, it's applying into squaring her natal Saturn, so restructuring. So the god of, let's say now it's confinement, but it's also restructuring, has also joined the Lord of the Underworld in her fourth house, okay? The whistleblower, April 16th, 2019, I have 11:09 for the time, and I don't think that that's an exact time. So again, the houses, ascendant and all that won't be accurate, and the moon might be a little funky as well. But we can say with certainty, Mars, transiting Mars, was opposed to her sun, so activating her sun. Somebody was acting, someone in her house of up high here in the 9th house of other people. So people that you don't know, that you don't see every day. 3rd house people are people that you're familiar with. 9th house is quote unquote foreigners, so people you don't know or people you have to stretch to meet. They're not in your everyday orb. So Mars was transiting in her 9th house, opposing her sun, so bringing energy to that sun. Uranus, as you can see, the god of liberation, the ruler of Aquarius, the thing that breaks things up, was in 2 degrees Taurus into her 8th house of shared resources, opposite her Jupiter in her 2nd house. So Jupiter in her 2nd house in Scorpio, so her resources, Jupiterian, very large, abundant resources. Abundant, I say abundant self-worth, but as I say that, Jupiter can also be, especially in the second house, feeling like more, like, okay, I know I've got that, but what more? Like, there's always like a little bit of a striving to not, because you don't quite own it or embody it, okay? So part of her evolutionary path, again, would really be to own and embody, like, again, she is one of the most popular people in the whole world. She should have a lot of power, and she has a lot of money. What has been done to the money is another question, and does she have control of it? Okay, so with Jupiter there, any sense of that doubt within her should be taken away. It's almost forced, like her, again, she's really got to embody and own that. And I know as I say that, there are so many things acting against her. And that's that Pluto holdover. So I'm going to jump back to the whistleblower. At that time, Jupiter was at 24 degrees Sagittarius. So it was conjunct her Neptune and the true Black Moon Lilith. So activating that. But as we know, the Neptune squares her Mars in her chart. So read it two different ways. Was the Jupiter there to break it apart? Was the Jupiter there to make bigger the Neptunian delusion and loss of consciousness that her natal Neptune and Mars have? And I think, as we know at that time, 2019, she disappeared. She checked into a facility. And I don't know if I said this in the last video or if I said it in the video that I didn't release, but in this day and age, you can't just check someone into a facility without her millions of fans wondering where she is. Whereas, I'm going to say Judy Garland or any of the stars in the past, anything, oh, well, that was just drugs and alcohol. Oh, that was just whatever. Oh, that was the pressure being a child star. It's like, well, we don't know, right? But we have the questions that we can all question now, and we have information that we can all discern from. Does that make sense? So my point being that was that Jupiterian expansion of her being confined and losing herself during that time. But at the same time, there are these other forces lined up to help her. Okay, so that's the takeaway. But basically, what I can say is, and this is in typical Amy fashion, that I don't have a current transit chart for her. But what I'm going to say is, the eclipses specifically have lined up with her career, okay, but besides the karmic eclipse linked in with her birth. And then the other eclipses linked to that one have lined up with her career. And then the eclipses that line up with the hashtag Free Britney movement are going to be activated. They are activated. I'm going to just hold this up. There was an eclipse August 11th of 2018 at 18 degrees Leo. So that's 2 degrees away from being exact to the degree of the hashtag Free Britney movement. So, bang, right? So as we know, I mean, that wasn't just some, oh wow, Britney's just not going to appear. She's not going to do this residency. That was obviously planned to be her exit, to be a very public exit. The eclipses then continued 2019, 0 degrees Leo, pushing into her 11th house of love received. July 16th, 2019, a lunar eclipse, 24 degrees Capricorn, right on her south node. So her past life, imprisonment, this life, freedom, her natal Venus, that goddess of the heavens, embodying that divine feminine. And again, I mean that as a sense of receptive, not gender, that yin energy. That's being activated January 2020, 20 degrees Cancer eclipse, 0 degrees Cancer eclipse, June 21st, 2020. So that's hitting her house of career. So the 20-degree Cancer, I don't think I said, hitting her north node. 0 degrees, hitting her career house. November 30th, 2020, 8 degrees Gemini, opposing her sun. December 14th, 2020, 23 degrees Sagittarius, hitting her true Black Moon Lilith, Neptune. So that's also squaring her natal Mars, so rattling that cage. Then the eclipses, May 26th of this year, 2021, 5 degrees Sagittarius, right on, actually 5 degrees 25, like exactly on her natal Mercury, okay? Exactly on her natal Mercury. So it's time for her to talk, and like the energies are supporting it, and like the energies are supporting it. I do get excited about astrology, and I get excited about people having the opportunity to transform. The June 10th eclipse was at 19 degrees Gemini, so right at the midpoint between her sun and Neptune. So the midpoint would be 17 degrees. The eclipse was at 19 degrees, so opposing that. So again, just harmonizing that. It's like, you know, hitting a note, and then anything else in resonance with it is going to vibrate. So does that make sense? After this, so after, we're going to be moving, the nodes will be moving back into Scorpio Taurus. So this is for everyone. So the eclipse pattern is going to be Scorpio Taurus. Okay, that was my computer, which I didn't turn off. So anyway, I think that's just a little message. We're going to wrap it up. I might come back on again and hit a few more points, but just know, keep the faith, keep the energy. And again, just sending this out with a lot of positivity, a lot of color. I wanted to add a little more color to the bouquet today, more yellows and oranges, more enlivening and solar energies. So just know that this is sent with a lot of positivity for Britney and for this movement and for people everywhere being able to speak and to be free and to be free of anything that binds them, anything that occludes, anything that has disconnected you from your own heart, which, as we know, has all of your own answers, always. Namaste.